everybody. Today Bible study will be on 1 Samuel verse 1 to 28, and it's about the birth of Samuel, and it's about Hannah, his mom. Okay, so we pretty much focus on her. So let's get started. Hannah means favor and grace. That's what I wrote up there in my Bible, on my Bible, in Hebrew. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, Zophite, from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, and on Ephraimite. All right, so here we come. So he says like who is coming, all his genealogy, where he's coming from, and he had 2 wives. In that time, they could have more than one, 2, 3, or much more, severals. But he had to support them all. The children, their children, it's going to be his children as well. He has to support them all, including the children. So it says about the wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Which in Jewish culture is to have as many children as you can, to give them, to your husband. That is what they have in their culture. And but Hannah had no children. And children they consider is a blessing from the Lord. As many children, as many blessings. And I'm not sure if you ever felt yourself in the more like a deserted time, like everything is dry, nothing comes in. Like you see the other ones has so many blessings, and for you nothing comes around. It's, I think, what Hannah felt. So let's go back in the story. Verse 3. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Okay, so he believes in God. He knows who God Almighty is, and he goes to worship and sacrifice, and that was the good thing. If you know who God is, you don't have to fear anything. And going verse 4. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Who closed her womb? The Lord. Wow, that's rare. Okay. Her husband, well, he gives portions, as he says in the scriptures here. He gives portion to the other wife who has children and her sons and daughters. So he gives portions like and then for his wife Hannah, he gave a double portion because it's how much he loved her. Wow. But Lord had closed Hannah's womb. Wow. I'm just going to say, there's a reason. So when these things happen, there's a reason that God put a stop on things, you know. For example, her womb that will now open and have no children yet. Okay? Because God knows when you are in such a like distress, and then you get on your knees, then you pray, and then God wants you to be humble, pray, worship Him from your heart, from inside your heart, like deep, deep, deep inside your heart, in order for the things to move in the spirit. Okay? Until that happens, He will not move a finger. He let that happen for a reason. Because when God tried to bless you, you will see the opposite happening to your life. And things will not come to pass whenever you pray or whenever, because you think you deserve, you're supposed to have those, but you didn't get what you asked for. But God is waiting to really to open deep your heart inside and pour out, like cry out to God, is what He gets. So she gets in that corner to cry out to God, and this is how, because guess what happened here? Her rival, we are still in verse 6, because the Lord has closed Hannah's womb, her rival, which is the other wife, kept provoking her in order to irritate her. So it's provoking her. It's like, you see, you don't have children. I have. Look how many children. Look how blessed I am. You cannot even have one. What is wrong with you? You see, my husband likes my children, likes me more, likes my children, plays with my children. You don't have none. Wow. Provoking, irritating her. This went, so in verse 7, this went on year after year. We don't know how many years in total. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. So she had so much of I would say, more like an enemy, you know. This, the other wife of Elkanah, Peninnah, what's her name? Will bother her. Like that's daily. Imagine to see the other one, so many kids she has, and she's getting pregnant again. She's another one, and you cannot even get one child. And her husband, when verse 8, her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? It's not the same, guys. It's not the same. I can relate to this story myself. Because for a woman not to be able to have children, it's a big deal. Some women, they don't want to have children, but in general, like if a woman doesn't have children and she wants to have children, is a big deal. Because you feel like that's why you came on this earth, to have and to leave like behind you the generation to come, you know. So I was told I couldn't have no children by a specialist. And God blessed me so much. I just said just one, I have two. Because God promised me, I will bless you. You will be a blessed woman among your children. And here I was. So I got blessed with 2. So don't believe the lies out there, guys. Don't believe the lies. The lies of the enemy. Don't believe, and don't feed into that frustration and provocation of the enemy. Don't. Believe what God has told you. It's sweet told me, like, I'll be a happy mother among my children, a blessed mother. I'm going to be, if so when I had the first one in the United States, then I had the second one, and then God came and told me, did I say you're going to be a happy mother among your children? That got fulfilled. Okay, so don't despair, don't be in desperation. Just keep praying, and exactly what Hannah did. That's in the verse 9. Once when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. Now, exactly where God wanted her to be. Not weeping bitterly, but now the prayer comes from her heart. Because she is so hurt, she is putting out to God. And now, that's exactly where God wanted her. 11, verse 11. And she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to be the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. And what it means, like, no razor will be used on his head, like he's going to be like a Jewish Israelites, and they don't shave his head when they're in the chosen by God, and they do God's work. They don't put a razor on their heads. So be a servant of the Lord all the days of his life. So, wow, God loved this. He was waiting for this moment when she will pour out her heart completely to God, and she will dedicate the son to God. Wow. Verse 12, as she kept on praying on the Lord, Eli, which is the priest in that time, observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart exactly what God wanted her to do, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. I do sometimes pray like that. I don't want everybody to hear my prayer. Maybe I'm in the bathroom. Maybe I'm in the places where people are around. I may just move my lips. And I liked when we had the mask, that I could move my lips. Nobody can actually see it because I had a mask on my face. And I was praying actually for people, for situations. And Eli thought she was drunk because probably he had seen women coming to pray, and they were drunk, or drunk people and all that, because they hear people with their voices praying to God, but he didn't hear nothing. So, and say to her, we are still in verse 14 here, and say to her, how long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Okay, on the top of everything else what she has, she's mistaken as a drunk lady, and she is so pure, she's so kind, she's so, that the Bible doesn't say, but because of her name, she will go by her name. God, you name me, I have favor and grace. Where is it? But guess what? what comes from God is more precious than anything else. You just have to wait. Okay. Sometimes waiting is making people lose their mind. But so verse 15. No, so my Lord, Hannah replied, I'm a woman who is deeply troubled. I've not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I've been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Wow. So now finally, she's praying from the top of her heart, inside the heart. And she says with a great anguish and grief. She was grieving for something she did not have. Did you find yourself into that position? You're grieving for something you don't have. You want to have so bad, but you don't have. It could be that maybe you can identify with Hannah right here. Guess what? The good news, God did not forget about you. You have to get on your knees. And as Hannah did, pray to God from her heart. It's how you need to pray and get your prayers answered. 17. Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. Wow. The priest, he didn't hear her prayer. But what God says, when 2 or 3 are praying the same thing, I'm in the midst of them, and he will answer your prayer. So exactly what it was, there he agrees with her prayer without even hearing her prayer. Okay? So that's a plus. Will be nice if she will pray with her husband. That would be the good thing, because 2 of them, but I'm not sure if they did. I'm not sure how close they were, because when she went home, she would see the other wife and the children, and she was like trouble in her heart again. So this was the only place she could come, and then this time she really poured out her heart to God, and then the priest agreed with her prayer. Okay, and it says like, let God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. So I saw she was like, I would say, we're saying this time she was miserable. Verse 18, she said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Why? Why her face was not longer downcast? Because God had answered, because 2 of them agreed in the prayer. God had answered her prayer, was from on the deepest of her heart, and God had answered her prayer. And already when that already happened in the spiritual, she was already at peace, like that peace came over her and was no longer downcast. Verse 19, early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord. So now she was like a different person. They went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. For sure he did. He did in that moment. Lord, remember her that moment of prayer and agree with Eli the priest. Verse 20, so in the course of time Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. And Samuel means God had heard, and that's why I wrote on my Bible there. Wow. So she didn't go to the temple till, so it says like Hannah dedicated Samuel. She didn't went to the temple till she weaned him off, like feeding him that he was good enough, that he could walk on his feet and, follow directions and all that. So I would say maybe 3 years but she was happy. And after that, she took all these offerings and all that, old bull, like 3 years old bull, and along with flour, wine. We are in verse 24. She went off and she went to the give the boy to Eli, the priest. And it tells who this boy was and dedicate himself to. She dedicates himself, and it says like, I am, pardon me, my Lord, as surely as you live. I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I pray for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I ask of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. Alrighty. And not just that, she has a long prayer. I'm not going to read it to you. But if you are in the same distress that she was, after God answered her prayer, she said all this prayer to the Lord, that he heard her prayer and gave her strength and all that, and all this. So with this, she shut the mouth of the enemy who was trying to come and make her unhappy. So she had, we don't know how many children she had after that, but this she dedicated to the Lord. And guess who was Samuel, by the way? It says God had heard, but not just that, he was one of the most prophets, the highest prophets in that time was Samuel. From his birth, he was dedicated to the Lord even before he born. Hannah dedicated him to the Lord, and he grew, I would say, in the temple, and where actually the Ark of the Covenant was there. So his head was right there. God started to talk to him at a very young age. He was, I say, the greatest prophet of all that time. And then he had anointed Saul as a king of Israel, and then David, we know later on, he got David to be the king as well. So when we have Hannah prayer, and it's a long one, we can read it, but pretty much I will, I try to go just that much, but I says there's a prayer of what God did to her. So if you're having or facing the same situation, I would say pray to God, but pour out your heart to God. May not be that has to do with the children, may have to do with other things that you're facing right now, and you think that God did not hear you. Would be good to have two people agree with that prayer. Dedicate yourself to God and pour your heart to God, because he will hear your prayer. He heard your prayer, but he will answer your prayer, and you will trample over your enemies. Telling you, see, God heard me. Now who is the blessed one now? Wow. We never know what happened with the other wife's children, but we know Samuel is in the Bible. He is the prophet of that time, the high prophet in that time. So don't lose your hope. Pray, because God will answer. And with this, we conclude the lesson for today. Until next time, say goodbye. Goodbye now.